Hello and welcome to MedTube channel. Now we are going to discuss about the neural crest cells. This question is asking about the star-marked region located dorsal and lateral to the neural tube. This region corresponds to the neural crest cells. So the question is focused on identifying the derivatives of the neural crest cells. Before answering the question, let's analyze the derivatives of the neural crest cells using relevant pictures for better understanding. Most ganglia in the body are derived from neural crest cells. Examples include cranial nerve ganglia, parasympathetic ganglia, and sympathetic ganglia. Some cranial nerve ganglia are 5, 7, 9, 10. The sympathetic chain ganglia, located near the spinal cord, are derived from the neural crest cells. These include prevertebral ganglia and paravertebral ganglia. Paravertebral ganglia, situated on the either side of the vertebra. Prevertebral ganglia, found anterior to the aorta. Examples of pre-aortic ganglions are celiac ganglion, superior mesenteric ganglion, and inferior mesenteric ganglion. Additionally, neural crest cells gives rise to the dorsal root ganglion of the spinal cord and enteric ganglion of the gut tube. Examples of enteric ganglion are Auerbach's ganglion and Meissner's ganglion. There are some important conditions in the enteric ganglia, which is Hirschsprung's disease. This condition occurs when neural crest cells fail to migrate to the distal column, leading to the congenital aganglionic megacolon, which is absence of ganglia. This causes compromised peristalsis and fecal retention. We have two types of mesoderm, primary mesoderm and secondary mesoderm or secondary mesenchyme. Primary mesoderm, which forms majority of the human body, where secondary mesoderm, which originates from the neural crest cells, particularly in the anterolateral neck region. As you can see, I have another diagram to explain the derivatives of the neural crest cells. Let's begin. Neural crest cells contribute significantly to the development of cranial neural crest, which are derived from the secondary mesoderm. This includes facial skeleton, pharyngeal arch cartilages, and connective tissue structures in the head and neck regions, such as thymus and parathyroid gland. The contribution of neural crest cells by pharyngeal arch cartilages. You have to remember first arch, mandible, malleus and incus. Second arch, stapes and upper portion of the hyoid bone. Third arch includes only the lower portion of the hyoid bone. Neural crest cells forms most mesoderm components of the eyeball, such as choroid and sclera. Both structures arise from the secondary mesenchyme derived from the neural crest cells. Neural crest cells form the conotruncal septum, also known as aortic pulmonary septum, which separates the ascending aorta from the pulmonary trunk. Next is DiGeorge syndrome, which is very important. Is due to abnormal migration of neural crest cells, can lead to aortic pulmonary septum anomalies such as persistent truncus arteriosus. The most common cause of death in DiGeorge syndrome is related to aortic pulmonary septum anomaly. Neural crest cells forms odontoblasts, which create dentine, an essential component for teeth. Neural crest cells also form dermis, subepithelial connective tissue, the skin of skin, in the head and neck region. The surface ectoderm develops all the external openings, includes enamel covering the teeth and epidermis, except the melanoblast, which arise from the neural crest cells. You have to remember this. Other surface ectoderm derivatives include the first layer of the cornea and lens of the eye, while the inner four layers of the cornea develops from the neural crest cells. As we already know, this question is asking about the area which is dorsal and lateral to the neural tube, which is the neural crest cells. At first, it is connective tissue of the thymus is given. Connective tissue of head and neck region is derived from the neural crest cells, including thymus, parathyroid gland, thyroid gland, and even tonsils are derived from the neural crest cells. So, it is correct. We move on to the next, which is choroid. Choroid is derived from the neural crest cells of secondary mesoderm, which includes sclera. So, it is also correct. At next, which is melanoblast. I hope you remember. I've told you to remember as well. While most skin epithelium originates from the surface ectoderm, melanoblast is an exception, which is derived from the neural crest cells. So, it is also correct. And next is Meissner's ganglia. Neural crest cells gives rise to various ganglia, which includes Meissner's ganglia, Auerbach's ganglia, sympathetic and parasympathetic ganglia, as well as dorsal root ganglia, where most of the ganglia are derived from neural crest cells, which makes this correct. At next, we have nephrogenic cord, which is related to kidney. The intermediate mesoderm develops the structures such as kidney, testes, and ovaries. However, intermediate mesoderm isn't located in the marked region, which is towards lateral. So, it's incorrect. Thus, the correct answers are 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is option D. So, option D is the correct answer. That's the end of the session. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Got questions? Drop them in the comments below. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, Stay curious and keep learning. Cheers.